Welcome again to The More You Know with the Plot Geek Academy and the Plot Geeks. I am Jana S. Brown, and today I'm with my amazing co-host, CJ Anaya. Good
Thank
morning again.
you. Yes, hello, hello. Nice to be here.
We, yeah, we are bebopping right along today, getting a lot done, knocking down those goals. And today we're going to talk about what is a BISAC and why it matters to you as an author, why you need to know this. And sometimes being an author, I think, feels a lot like being in the military as far as the alphabet soup that defines everything. And I've got some great military friends, and there are times they'll get talking, and I'm like, I am understanding one in every six words here because the acronyms flow very, very quickly. And the author community can really feel like that, where people will say, well, yes, have you checked your BISAC and have you done this, that, and the other? And I can see authors going, so I'm supposed to have a BISAC. Was I born with it? Where does this come from? So we're going to help you with some of those things as part of the more you knows is to give you some of these terms and what do they mean? Why do they matter? So we're starting with the BISAC. BISAC stands for Book Industry Standards and Communications. And this gets into a little bit of history lessons. So I'm going to tell CJ a story because she likes it when I tell her stories. So if we went back to the time before, when people wrote books, they did not necessarily get categorized as being a romance book, as being a science fiction book, as whatever. They were just books. And sometimes there was a little bit of a differentiation between religious books like the Bible and everything else, right? But they were just books. Because for a long time, reading was something that not everybody did. A lot of people weren't literate. And those that were tended to focus on religious books, and you didn't have a lot of time for it because you were busy doing all the other things that just kept you alive. Reading and writing books and all of the things around it are kind of a leisure activity. There's something that we're very blessed with because we have leisure time. And that's why this changed, is that as we got into things like the Industrial Revolution, well, now we had movable print, we had lots of ways that books could start to be produced, and more books were showing up on the market. And more people had more disposable income and leisure time to turn into readers. And we as authors owe a whole lot of our livelihood to this big change in the way that books became really popularized. Not that stories haven't always existed and been important, because they really, really have and are, but they became something for the masses, right? And so as they were doing that, you used to have these nice little booksellers, and you'd go in and they'd have books, and they could talk to you and say what kind of book you like to read, and they could match you to the book and give you exactly the book you want, and away you went. But more books, more readers, the people who are running shops, it's a marketing thing, went, we have to have an easier way to do this because I can't walk each person to their perfect book. And that's where they started coming up with generalized categories. So all of this Jane Austen romantic type stuff, we will call romance. All of the stuff that has this kind of action adventure, we will call action adventure. We will call them Westerns. We will call them things. And every shop did it slightly differently, kind of based on whichever tropes or whatever connecting factor they found between their books and called it a section, and there it was in their bookstore. So eventually, in order to make it so that it was a lot easier for readers, there was this industry standard that came up that said, here are some of the genres and the categories of books, and we're going to make them standard across everybody who sells books. Because that way, if someone comes in looking for a romance, it doesn't matter which store they go to, all booksellers can say, yes, you like that romance stuff, I can find this for you, right? So the first basic BISACs are the Book Industry Standards and Communication Codes, and they include mostly large genres. So you're going to get romance in there, you're going to get fantasy, you're going to get science fiction, you're going to get mystery, you're going to get thrillers. But you notice it's not breaking down into some of these sub niches and sub niches and sub niches. That wasn't a thing at that point. Okay. And the BISAC worked with libraries and that kind of thing. And over time, they would add things, remove things, they being, the almighty librarians, industry book standard people. And so that happened. And we still work with the BISAC today. If you go into Bowker and you buy an ISBN number, and we'll talk about ISBNs in another video, they're going to have you assign a BISAC to your book. And again, it is what is the most general genre that belongs to this book, that this book goes in. They're going to ask for that. Other distributors are going to ask for it. Now, the reason that it becomes really important now, do you want to tell them, CJ, or shall I?
You go for it. Tell us why it's really important now, because I'm actually learning some things. So I'm like, ooh, keep talking, Jen.
CJ's along for the ride on this one. It's kind of
I
fun.
am.
I love having your audience. Ta-da! The funny thing about videos is that you really, really wouldn't guess how introverted we can both be when we're off on our own, because when you get out in front of the camera and there with your friend, you can, paint on all the extrovert paint. It's an amazing thing. There's another discussion for another time. So the reason it matters now is, yes, you need to know what the BISAC category is for your book because so many distributors ask for it. Place where it becomes confusing goes back to our very, very favorite large distributor, which is Amazon. They're not always our very favorite, but that was fun to say. Um, Amazon looked at it and they went, well, the BISAC is nice, but we could get more granular than that. And if we can get more granular, it's better for our search engines because we can create a very granular database. And then when somebody comes and searches and says, not only do I want romance, but I specifically want military romance, we can help them find the things that are specifically military romance, not just romance, because romance is big, y'all. There are millions and millions of romance books. And so Amazon was looking at it as a way to make their search engine better for their end user. So Amazon, the BISAC codes, there's, I want to say about 1,000 of them. It's probably even less than that. I'd look it up, but I don't have the time. So the BISAC codes are actually a very small group when you look on a list. Amazon has something around 10 to 14,000 subcategories and subcategories and subcategories. You can go 4 or 5 layers deep in Amazon to get to a very, very specific niche to where your readers can find books that are, it's romance, it's paranormal romance, it's military paranormal with vampires. That is not one. I'm making this up. But you can get that specific. And this is why BISAC becomes a confusing term because there's BISAC and then there's categories. And Amazon categories include the BISAC, but go well beyond it. And some other distributors have also included the BISAC and then added some of the most common categories outside of that. So you have to just know that the BISAC is always where it starts. You can get a list of those codes online. It's easy peasy. But then when you're going to distribute a book and you're going to put it up somewhere else, you're going to have places where you're going to have assigned categories that have nothing to do with the BISAC because they are much more granular. And again, that's all great because we live in a digital era where somebody can go in and they can very specifically type the very specific kind of story they want. We want them to be able to find them. So more intense categories helps with that searching. The BISAC is where it all began. So there you go. There's something that you didn't know.
I love it. I also think that with the more narrowed down the sub niches that we're working with, it not only helps the readers, but it helps you as an author to understand what kind of book you are writing and what kind of audience you are writing to. Because you wouldn't think that romance sub niches would be so different or that there would be so many different expectations. But there are different expectations from a military romance to a mafia romance to a shifter romance to a sweet country second chance romance, small town romance. You need to know those differences and what elements ought to be put in those books. So it's not just helping your reader find the right book, it's helping you find your right audience and writing to that specific audience, knowing all of these sub niches. So if you guys have not had a chance, I would hop on to Amazon and check those things out. Check out those categories and check out those sub niches because it's really good to take a look at everything that is available, especially if you're a new author and you're not quite sure what you want to write about. Why don't you take a look at what is there and see if anything strikes your fancy? Usually it's going to be what you love to read, though. Yeah. Anything else, Jenna?
And those categories will come up when you upload a book to KDP or when you upload it to other distributors as well. They do get to a point where they're going to say, we want you to select these. And again, if you select the ones where your market lies, they're going to have a much easier time of finding you. And we really want that no matter how you define success. I think that part of success is having somebody read your book. So we have to make sure that we make it as easy for our end readers to find our books as possible. So, all right, fantastic. Well, then there's another the more you know. What is a BISAC and why does it matter to you? We'll see you later, guys. Bye bye now.
Bye bye.